So lately, you might have noticed a bunch of hit pieces against Bernie Sanders. For example, Politico declared that Bernie's army is in disarray, referring, of course, to our revolution, and that basically his political ambitions have fizzled out. Bernie 2020, that's never going to happen. I mean, it just doesn't have the same energy it has before. Really? Oh, well, that's very interesting of them to say. I'm going to disprove that later on, but let's go to our revolution, for example. Well, our revolution has a win rate of about 50%. A little less if you quote Politico, somewhere around 40, but nonetheless, they've done a pretty good job of endorsing candidates that actually win. That's not bad for a group that didn't exist until after the 2016 election. So, great. But look, I think we all know why these hit pieces are coming out. I think it's because the establishment is actually scared that we actually could win. That's why they're putting out the narrative of, oh, Bernie won't win. There's no energy there, right? Now, of course, he's incredibly popular. In fact, he's the most popular politician in America. And a great example of that popularity, other than polls, was demonstrated at a recent We the People summit. Now, the summit held people, prominent Democrats like Senator Cory Booker, Elizabeth Warren, Kirsten Gillibrand, and Kamala Harris. Now, all of these people are considered to be in the running for 2020, even though they haven't actually went and made it official. There's a lot of speculation that these are the people that are going into the primary. Now, Bernie Sanders is also included. Now, it was Sanders who, when he was introduced and when he had come to speak at the We the People Summit, actually won the most applause from the crowd of progressives. That's been happening a lot. Anywhere Bernie Sanders seems to go, there happens to be a lot of people that are really happy to see him. Oh, but he's not popular. No, he never won an election. No, he doesn't have popular support. According to Hill reporters Ben Commissar and Lisa Hagen, the energy in the room was palpable throughout the entirety of Sanders' speech. He received multiple standing ovations, and Bernie cheers broke out when he walked on and off the stage. Oh, that sounds like somebody who's deeply unpopular who could never win a general election. No, you know why he's popular? You know why people like him? It's because, number one, he's consistent. And number two, he actually talks about policy because that's what he cares about. He cares about the policies more than he cares about himself and his own political ambitions. Okay? Now, those policies would include Medicare for all, free college, a living wage, taxing the rich fairly in order to reduce the gigantic, enormous levels of income inequality. Now, it turns out those policies happen to be incredibly popular, which is why a lot of people who were there were talking about that. And it wasn't just Bernie Sanders. For example, Cory Booker. Now, Cory Booker, we know Cory Booker. He's like a Wall Street guy. He loves getting money from Wall Street corporations. Well, he recently said, oh, I'm not going to take corporate PAC money, right? And now he's actually going after hedge funds and corporations who he says practice, quote, perverse capitalism that prioritizes dividends and executive bonuses over workers. This is Cory freaking Booker. He specifically singled out, Booker did, Bain Capital. Now, you guys remember Bain Capital. I remember talking about that during the 2012 election. Good Lord, I've been on the air for too long. Now, what's different here is that back in 2012, he defended Bain Capital against those attacks against Mitt Romney. He's like, oh, no, Bain Capital, no. Those attacks against Bain Capital, this is a good, upstanding corporation. I think that this attack is, quote, nauseating. Well, now he's like, I'm progressive. What are you talking about? I'm progressive. I'm going after Bain Capital. Yeah, the guys that I kind of defended back in the day. I'm going after them. Hedge funds, got to come after them. Funny how things change when you actually have a progressive challenging you. When you have somebody challenging you from the left, which hasn't happened in a very long time in the Democratic Party. Now, he also said, I support a lot of legislation and ideas to end these kinds of toxic practices to put workers back in the center of the company's focus. Well, then you should, of course, be in favor of strong unions and strong union rights. That is the way that we put workers back into the center of the company's focus, allowing them to actually have a strong presence in which they could negotiate and bargain for better wages and benefits. Yes, that puts the workers right back in the middle of things, where they have not been for a very long time, and that's, of course, why you see the corporate domination that we have today. Now, it's not just Booker, of course. We also have Kirsten Gillibrand. Now, Kirsten Gillibrand said that she supports a financial transaction tax on Wall Street. It's like your, Robin Hood tax, right? So every time these automated traders do these massive trades, and they do them, hundreds of times in a minute or a second. I don't know how fast they are, but I've heard they're really freaking fast because they're just nothing but machines trading these stocks. Well, if you have like a 0.01 cent, tax on those, well, that can add up. That can add up to quite a bit of money, and that actually, the goal there is not to get tax money. The goal is there to stop speculation, Wall Street speculation, from artificially inflating prices. So, hey, look, that would be great. In fact, Bernie Sanders last year sponsored a bill that would actually impose that Robin Hood tax. So Kirsten Gillibrand now on board, wonderful. Now on income inequality, she said, quote, I think that's the greatest risk we have to our democracy right now. She also said she backed mass incarceration, institutional racism, of course, getting money out of politics, that's huge, achieving paid leave, universal pre-K, and pay equity. So why am I telling you about this? Why does it matter? Because none of this would have happened if it weren't for Bernie Sanders. None of these politicians would be taking leftward positions that are incredibly popular without Bernie Sanders. And of course, he remains the most popular politician in America, who is behind the most popular policies in America. In fact, Medicare for All pulls over 60%. And you know why? It's because people know Medicare. They know Medicare. They've heard of Medicare. All their grandparents have it. And if you ask any of them, what would they tell you? Oh, no, we would love to go back to the private sector. No, it's, I couldn't wait to get Medicare because then I wouldn't have to worry about my health care anymore. Open it up already. Everyone deserves Medicare for all. Why? Because it's efficient, it saves money, and most importantly, it gives people health care. Now, of course, the establishment, who is mainly funded by insurance companies, they don't like this idea. That's why we end up getting watered down bullshit like the ACA. So, and look, I'm not saying that a lot of these hit pieces, to go back to that, right, are paid for, right? No, I think it's likely because the people that write these hit pieces for outlets like Politico, the New York Times, Washington Post, it's because that's in their bubble. They don't know anybody that has never been able to afford health care personally. They all have lots and lots of money. They can afford their insurance. It's not really a problem for us. Why do you want Medicare for all? Private insurance is fantastic. Well, it's not. Over 30,000 people a day die from lack of health care. This is health care that they don't have access to. They might have health insurance, but people forget. If they have a deductible that they can't afford to pay before they get treatment, well, then they go without it. They go without that treatment, and stuff happens. Look, my sister was a statistic of this. She didn't have health insurance. She couldn't afford health care, and she died because of it, of something that could have been prevented. That's why we got to go and we got to pop that bubble. We got to make sure that everyone can get health care, because health care is a human right. However, insurance companies, political pundits, and establishment politicians, they don't believe that. They don't understand that. And look, they get money from lobbyists, and they'll never understand why Bernie Sanders is so popular, why his policies are so popular, and why they just can't seem to bring him down, while every attempt at a smear piece, at a hit piece against him, falls flat. They'll never understand. Look, Bernie Sanders, he is going to run in 2020. I think he's got to. He's got the policies. He still has the energy behind him. And this time, if he runs, I think he's going to win. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.